अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीवन। क्या हाल है आप लोगों के? कैसा हो आप लोगों का आज का पेपर? वालेकुम सलाम। अच्छा, उस द करेक्ट आंसर टू क्वेश्चन ऑफ द डे इज x. It's just x. I'm good, I'm good. Yeah, a minus 1 will just cancel out, and the correct answer is x. So good job. Who got it correct? Okay, surprisingly not a lot of you got it correct. Let me see. Aisha, your answer is correct. Good job. Nabil, you got it correct. Good job. Aliza, good job. Rouge, good job. Who else? Hasib, yeah. Hasib, I think लेकिन you messed up initially. Yeah, you did. खैर, कोई बात नहीं. Poor time management in physics P4. As far as I remember, ATP is pretty easy, no? Yep, X will be the answer. That's correct. Good job. Okay, so let's start. I would like you guys, I'd appreciate if you guys would just like the stream so we can start. As you can see, today's objective is that we're going to do graphs of functions. So we're going to do some questions that I personally think, again, not an expected paper by any means. Agar lag gaya to great, but that I personally think can come in the exam. Okay. I've singled out a few questions that involve a bit of word problems, word problems leading to algebra and graphs of functions. So we're gonna do those. मेरा अपना अंदाज़ा है कि आ सकता है, ठीक है? I'm sharing it with you guys. Although I could be totally wrong, all right? But even if I'm wrong, it'll still be good practice nonetheless. Okay. So considering that I mostly got an A and A stars in my previous math exams, do you think I should consider for AdMaths? Okay, so if you're doing it privately, then maybe you can study it for a month or two and then see what it's like. But if you're in a school or something, then I think schools also allow you to study it for a while and then you can switch. So you'll only have an idea once you actually study it. All right. Sir, P1 के लिए भी यही कहा था और आ गया था. What do you mean? P1 के लिए कहा था और आ गया था. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I said something that came in the exam? Is that what you mean? Anyway, so like I said, those of you who are watching, if you guys would just like the stream, that would mean a lot. Now let's start. This is a question that I really want to solve with you guys. It's from May-June 2012, paper 2, variant 2. Yes, this will be uploaded. Don't worry about it. Okay. So it says here, a solid consists of a sphere on top of a square-based cuboid. Okay. No, this video is not for IGCSE Math. This is only for O-level math. I mean, you can watch it if you have your exam next year or in October, November. It will be good practice. Okay. The diameter of the sphere is x centimeter. Okay. The base of the cuboid has sides of length x centimeter. Okay. The sum of the height of the cuboid and one of the sides of the base is 8 centimeter. All right. By considering the height of the cuboid, explain why it is not possible. Okay, now this statement is very important, where it says the sum of the height of the cuboid, so that's h, okay, and then it says, and one of the sides of the base is 8 centimeter, so that means h plus x equals to 8 centimeter, okay. Now, then you will have, then let's see what the question says. It says, by considering the height of the cuboid, explain why it is not possible for this sphere to have a radius of 5 centimeter. So if the radius is 5 centimeter, then if radius is 5 centimeter, then diameter, which is basically equal to x in this case, is going to be equal to what? Is going to be equal to 10 centimeter. Okay, if radius is equal to 5 centimeter. In that case, notice what happens. H plus 10 equals to 8, which means that h equals to minus 2. So therefore, this is not possible. Okay, so x has to be less than 8. Why? Because the sum of x and h is equal to 8. So how can you expect x alone to be greater than 10? That to be greater than 8. So that's just not possible, let alone 10. 10 to ho hi nahi sakta. Okay, so this is a simple explanation that you're supposed to write over here why it's not possible. Okay, then it says, by taking the value of pi as 3, show that the appropriate volume, y centimeter cube of the solid, is given by so and so. Now, the next thing that you have to do over here is you have to find out the volume of the solid. Okay, how can you find out the volume of the solid? Notice that this is not one solid. Okay, this solid is actually made up of two solids. And what are those two solids? Those two solids are basically a sphere and a cuboid. Okay, so let's start with the cuboid. So if you want to find out the volume of the cuboid, so that would be equal to x into h. Okay, and then you will take the volume of the sphere, which is going to be 4 upon 3 into pi. And what is the radius of the sphere going to be? It's going to be x upon 2. And don't forget to cube the entire thing. Okay, so here's what I've done. Volume of the cuboid plus the volume of the sphere, and that's what's going to give us our final answer. And also don't forget that the question told us initially that h plus x equals to 8, which means that if you make h the subject, that's going to be equal to 8 minus x. And I'm going to replace h over here with 8 minus x. Why? Because notice that the volume that's given to us is in terms of x only. So we have x square into 8 minus x, okay, plus 4 upon 3 into pi, which the question says is equal to 3, into x cube upon 8. Why x cube upon 8? Because, read the question, it says that the radius is equal to, the diameter is equals to x, which means the radius is going to be x upon 2. Okay. Acha, volume ko humne na y ke barabar lena. In this question, we're supposed to take the volume equal to y, so we're going to replace the volume with y. So let's see what's that equal to. So this is equal to 8x square minus x cube. Okay, this 3 and this 3 gets cancelled out. Plus 4 1s are, 4 2s are. So plus 1 upon 2x cube. Now, since we have two terms with x cube, that means it can be further simplified. Minus x cube plus half x cube. This part can be simplified and be written as y is equals to 8x square minus 1 upon 2 x cube. So there you go. That's part B. This is what we were supposed to show. And we've done that. And it's equal to what we were supposed to bring it equal to. So there you go. That's the correct answer. Isme to you don't even have to check the answer. It's literally right in front of you. Now, let me know what your thoughts are. Easy, medium, difficult. Although we're not done yet. There's still a long way to go. But like, what do you think so far? Where did the h go? So h, like I said, h has been replaced by 8 minus x. Okay, the question told us initially that the sum of the height of the cuboid and one of the sides of the base is 8 centimeter. Okay, so that's why we have replaced h with 8 minus x. Okay, so is this part clear? I hope. Yes, I will start. अभी से आप लोगों को क्या जल्दी है? अभी आप लोग रिलैक्स करें. अभी से मुझे मैसेज आने शुरू हो गए हैं कि आपका नेक्स्ट बैच कब स्टार्ट हो रहा है. I'll start registrations in July and classes will start in August. Okay, so just take it easy. You guys have earned yourself a break, so just relax. Okay, 10 months are more than enough to prepare for A levels, O levels, even if you're doing it from scratch. Okay, so just chill. Now, here's part C. In part C, you have to complete the table. Okay. In part C, you have to complete the table. So just plug in 3 to find out the corresponding y value. So if you plug in 3, let's see what do we get. 8 into 3 square minus 3 cube upon 2. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. We're looking at 58.5. Okay, complete the table. So 1 mark just for plugging in a value. That's it. Okay. Then in part 2, it says on the grid opposite, plot the graph. Okay, so we'll plot the graph. Before that, let me see if you guys have any questions. Sir, is your session is 10 months? So the regular session is 10 months. The crash course, which starts in January, that is well, do the math. January till May. Okay. Did I miss anything? Okay, no. Saad, I am doing yearly past papers on the side. I did a yearly past paper yesterday. So, yeah, I'm doing yearly past papers on the side. Okay, acha, I just realized I've only taken out half the question. So, just give me a minute. I'll take out the rest of the question as well. Okay. Baki question paste nahi hua. Okay, so here it is. So we have to plot this. Let's see. First of all, that you have to do is, what you should do is, you should get familiar with the scale. Okay, so that you know exactly what to mark and where to mark it. So you have a point 1 comma 7.5. Achha, 1 we can see very clearly, but the question is, where exactly will 7.5 be? So 7.5, like I said, let's get familiar with the scale. So if you look at this is 20. 20 को divide करते हैं by 5. So 20 divided by 5 equals to what? Equals to 4. So that means here's 4, here's 8, here's 12, and here's 16, here's 20. Okay, so where will I find 7.5? Now, it's difficult to find exactly 7.5 over here. So we're going to have to compromise and we're going to have to go with 8. Okay, so there you go. 1 comma 8 is the first point. Then 2 comma 28. So 28 will be relatively easy to identify. It's going to be 2 boxes above 20. So there you go. That's 28. And then 3 की corresponding value is 58.5. So that will also, we need to compromise a little. So 3 comma 58.5. All right. So here's 40, here's 44, here's 48, here's 52, here's 56, and here is 60. So we'll go with somewhere in between 56 and 60. So there you go. And then you have 4 comma 96. I think 96 will not be a problem. Yeah, so 96 is 4 less than 100. So this is where 96 is at. Acha. Then you have 5 comma 137.5. Okay, so these arrows that I'm making it only for you guys. Okay, and also so that I don't end up misaligning the points. Okay, so here's 120, 124, 128, 132, 136. So 136 and 140. The point is 137.5. Again, we'll have to compromise and go with 137. 136 actually. 6 पे 180 hai, so for this we don't have to compromise. This is pretty straightforward. 6 and 180 is going to be up right there. And at 7 it's 220.5, so we'll go with 220. Okay, make sure that you mark the points correctly. It's always a good idea to just recheck once you've marked all the points. All right, and then plot the curve. Okay, so you don't have to join all the points at once, although if you can, that's great. But if you're afraid that you'll mess it up, if you try and do that, then just do it point by point. Or maybe you can join 2 points and then, okay, so this part I can improve a little. Yeah, maybe you can pick 2 points, join them first, and then join the other 2 and stuff like that. Okay. Okay, just a couple of things to avoid. Number 1 is that ये मत करना कभी कि आप ग्राफ जो है ना वो ऐसे बना रहे हैं. ठीक है, I've seen students do this. Don't do this. Okay. And the other thing, that one small tip that I can give you guys, I've given this earlier as well, is that before you join all the points, it's just a good idea to like hover your pencil, okay, without actually touching it, through all the points. And then once you get like an idea of what the curve is going to be like, then you can join it. Okay, so that is also something that you guys can do. Okay, so let's just double check the points. 1 comma 7.5, that looks good. 2 comma 28 looks good. 3 comma 58.5 looks good. 4 and 96, yep, looks good. Although I should have done this before actually making a curve. 5 and 137.5, yep, looks good. 6 and 180 looks good. Okay, 7 and 220.5, yeah, looks good. How many marks do you get for this? You get 3 marks. Okay, then it says, okay, here's part 3. Who can tell me how to do part 3? Read part 3, see what it says, and tell me how we're going to do this. Part 3 says, use your graph to find the height of the cuboid. Notice that it has written in bold letters that you're supposed to find the height, okay? Because I'm afraid a lot of students will do this not entirely correctly, but like partially correct. So tell me, what is it that I need to do over here? Were we supposed to? Okay, so no, you're not supposed to do that, because notice that you're only supposed to draw it from 1 to 7. Okay, so you're not supposed to join it. Yes, when y is equals to 120, that's correct. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to make a horizontal line when y is equals to 120. Okay, then we're going to look at the corresponding x value. Now, like I said, be careful. When you look at the corresponding x value, you find out the x value. Okay, so the corresponding x value is around 4.5, 4.6, 4.7, so maybe 4.65. Okay, 4.65 to be on the safe side. So notice that the question says that what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to find out, acha ye raha ye wala part. You're supposed to use your graph to find out the height of the cuboid when the volume of the solid is 120. So when y is equals to 120, using our graph, we get x is equals to what? X is equals to 4.65, but don't get carried away. That's not your final answer. Remember, height is equals to what? Height is equals to 8 minus x. So height will be 8 minus 4.65. So let's see what the answer is. 8 minus 4.65 gives us 3.35. So 3.35 is the final answer. Okay, there you go. Now here's part D. Part D says a cylinder has radius 3 centimeter and length x centimeter. Okay, so here we have a cylinder which has radius 3 and length x centimeter. Now length over here actually means height. By drawing a suitable graph on the grid, estimate the value of x when the solid and the cylinder have the same volume. Okay, so having the same volume on the graph basically means the point of intersection. So that's what we're going to look for over here. We're going to look for the point, or perhaps even the points of intersection. Okay, now question पढ़ के तो ये लग रहा है कि एक ही point होगा, ठीक है? But we might have 2 points. Let's see. So the volume of a cylinder is equal to pi r square h. Okay, so in this case, what do we have to take pi as? We have to take pi as 3. The radius is also 3, so 3 squared. And what's the height? The height is x. So that means the volume is actually equal to what? The volume is actually equal to 27x. Now we have to draw this. Okay, so this is like we're making a straight line. Why? Because it's like y equals to mx plus c. So we need a couple of points through which the line is passing, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to plug in a couple of values of x, so we find out the corresponding y values. The values that we're going to plug in can be, well, we're not going to go with -1. That's what we normally do. So 0, 1, and 2 are good enough. Okay, so if you plug in 0, you get 0. All right, here's x, here's v. If you plug in 1, you get 27. If you plug in 2, you get 54. All right. Now, 0 to 0, let's do this with a different color. Let's do this with green. So here's 0, 0. At 1, it's 27. So 27 is going to be slightly challenging. So we're going to go with 28. And then at 2, you have 54. So at 2, you have 54. So 54 will be in between 52 and 56. Okay, now that we have 3 points, that's good enough. We're going to make a line that's passing through the 3 points. And there you go. This is what we're looking at. Okay. And now you can see that the point of intersection, as per my graph, is around 5. Okay, so the point of intersection is 5. Let me make sure that it's 5 and not anything else. Yeah. So actually it's not 5, it's slightly less than 5. It's around 4.9 to be precise. Okay, so this is the value of x where the cube and whatever solid that we have drawn previously have the same volume. So what we're looking at is 4.9. And we're only getting one value of x, so we're not getting two values. So there you go. 4.9 is the value of x where the cylinder and the solid have the same volume. Yes, I'm taking pi as 3 because that's what the question says. Okay. Okay, now That's one question. How long did it take us to solve one question? I don't know, but it was quite a comprehensive question. So what are your thoughts about this question? Easy, medium, difficult? What do you guys think? How do you guys generally find this topic? Because I got a lot of requests to do a stream on graphs of function. Easy? Alright. Sergi, I'm getting 65 marks in P1. I want an A. How much should I aim in P2? Okay, so look, the thing is, irrespective of what I say, it's not like if I ask you to aim for a certain score, you'll study differently. Okay? So honestly, that's a pointless question to ask. Alright? You never attempt the paper with a certain score in mind. And God forbid, there's no, what if I tell you to aim for a certain score? What's the guarantee that you're going to get that score? Okay, so honestly, I think that's a very silly question to ask. Okay, what should I aim for? Well, you don't know what's coming, so you literally can't aim for anything. So what you need to do is, you need to do as well as possible. So you need to try and aim for as high as possible, and that should take care of everything else. सो ये क्वेश्चन पूछना एक इंतहाई अहमकाना बात है कि हमें क्या एम करनी चाहिए. ठीक है, कोई गारंटी नहीं है कि मैं आपसे कहूँ कि आप 100 की एम करें तो आप 100 स्कोर कर लेंगे. ठीक है, सो स्टॉप आस्किंग दीज क्वेश्चंस, जस्ट try and get as good marks as possible. That's what I would say. Okay, now, so here's a question. This is from May June 2012, paper 2, variant 1. So same year and just a different variant. May June 2012, paper 2, variant 1. Okay. And here you can see that it starts with a word problem, okay? Or you can say it starts with algebra that leads, word problem that lead to a quadratic. In fact, in this case, it's a cubic equation. So I'd like you guys to try this. I'll leave this on the screen for a minute. And let me know when you guys have the answer. The answer is right in front, so you don't have to worry about what the answer is. You just need to bring it equal to what's given. Okay. Sir, can you tell what happened with O-level exams? What do you mean what happened with O-level exams? The ones that got cancelled? Okay, I'm solving this question now. So it says a cuboid has a square cross section. All right, square cross section, that's important. Let's highlight that. Shown shaded in the diagram. So this is the square. All right, here's the square that the question's talking about. Walaikum salam. Yes, I'm from Karachi. This is the square. Then it says the length of the cuboid is x. The sum of the length of the cuboid and one of the sides of the square is 10 centimeter. Okay, so let's say the side of the square, let's call it a. Okay, to be on the safe side. So a plus x according to the question is equal to 10. So what does that make it? That makes a to be equal to 10 minus x. All right. Now, what do we have to do? We have to show that the volume of the cuboid is equal to so and so. So how can we find out the volume? Volume, as we know, of a cuboid is length into width into height. Now, width and height will be equal because it's a square. So length is x, width and height will be 10 minus x each. So might as well do 10 minus x the whole thing square. So when you do 10 minus x the whole thing square, please do not forget to use the identity. So you'll have 100 minus 20x plus x square. And then when you multiply, this is what you get. You get 100x minus 20x square plus x cube. And then you can write it nicely. Replace volume with y. That's what you're supposed to do. As the question says, x cube minus 20x square plus 100x is what you end up with. And there you go. That's the answer. Okay. Yeah. Now, part B, complete the table. So we just need to plug in two values. So that should be a no-brainer. Let's plug in 7. So 7 cubed minus 20 into 7 squared. And then you have plus 100 into 7. So that's equal to 63. Now in place of 7, I'm going to plug in 8 now. Let's see what that gives us. Sir, computer science paper 2 में fail हो जाना. Okay. Sorry to hear about that. मतलब हो जाना है, is you know that already, or you're afraid that you'll fail? 63 and 32. Okay. Then it says on the grid opposite, plot the graph. All right. So let's plot 181. That's 1 point. 1 pe 81. Again, let's get familiar with the scale. On the y-axis, you can see that if you have 5 small boxes representing 10, so 10 divided by 5 equals to what? Equals to 2. Okay. So 1 and 81. So 81 would be in between 80 and 82. So that's going to be over here. 2 pe we have 128. So 128 is just going to be one box below 130. And then at 3 we have 147. So 147 will be, okay, so here's 3. 147 is going to be in between 146 and 148. Okay. And then at 4 we have 144. So 144 is going to be 2 boxes above. Yep, that's so far so good. Okay. And then at 5 we have 125. So 125 is going to be in between 120 and 130. So that's right here. And then 6 pe we have 96. So 96 is going to be 3 boxes above 90. 7 pe we have 63. So 7 pe we have 62, 64, 63. 8 pe we have 32. So 8 pe we have 32. 9 pe we have 9. Okay, 9 pe 9. Alright, so like I said, let's just hover our pencil through all the points so that we get an idea of what the curve is going to look like. So this is what it's going to look like. Okay, now let's join it. Okay, let's join all the points one by one. There you go. Okay, that's it. Curve drawn. Now, then it says use your graph to find the maximum volume. Now notice volume is basically represented on the y-axis. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look for the maximum y value. So as per my graph, the maximum y value that I can see is somewhere around 148. Okay. So 148 is the maximum volume. Okay. So there you go. That's pretty easy. 148. Then it says the possible values of x. Okay, the possible values of x when the volume of the cuboid is 120. So that's what we're going to do. 120 pe, we're going to make a horizontal line. Okay, and we're going to see what are the corresponding x values. So there will be 2 x values. As you can see, the horizontal line is cutting the curve at 2 distinct points. So let's write down the values of these. Let's write down the x values of these points. So one is 5.2. So let's write that down. 5.2. And the other is around, it's somewhere in between 1.8 and 2. So in between 1.8 and 1.2 you will find, yeah, in between 1.8 and in between 1.8 and 2 you will find 1.9. Okay, so there you go. Both these answers fall inside the acceptable range, so you guys don't have to worry about that. Okay. Yeah, 1.8 and 2, so that's going to be 1.9. Okay, so pretty easy so far. Then we do part D, which says the volume of a sphere so and so. For this part, take pi to be equal to 3. The sphere has radius half x centimeters. Again, very similar to the previous question. Y is equals to or you can say volume is equals to 4 upon 3 pi r cube. 4 upon 3 pi r cube. Pi we're supposed to take to be equal to 3. Okay. R we're supposed to take as half x. Don't forget to cube it. So this 3 gets cancelled out. And when you simplify this, here's what you get. You get 4 upon 8 x cube. So 4 upon 8 x cube, if you simplify it, here's what you get. You get y is equal to 1 upon 2 x cube. 1 upon 2 x cube. Okay. Okay. Then let's see, what are we supposed to do? Then the question says, by drawing a suitable graph on the grid, estimate the value of x when the sphere and the cuboid have the same volume. Okay. Estimate the value of x when the sphere and the cuboid have the same volume. So 1 upon 2 x cube. Let's take a few points. Since this is in terms of x and y, so we're going to take a few points to make a straight line. So the points that we can take are 0, 1 and 2. Kafi honge. If you take 0, you get 0. If you take 1, you get 0.5. In fact, let's not take 1 because plotting 1 is going to be quite difficult. So let's take 2. Yeah, 2 is going to be easy. 2 cube will be 8. 8 upon 2 will be 4. And then let's not take 3, let's take 4. 4 cube will be 64. 64 upon 2 is going to be 32. So 0 per 0, let's do this with a different color so things don't get mixed up. Let's do this using the color green. So 0, 0, add 2, it's 4. So that's going to be over here. At 4, it's 32. So that's going to be over here. Okay, no, wait a minute. 4 will be slightly above. Okay, yeah. So this is what we're looking at now. Acha, here the question did not say that you have to make a straight line. In fact, it's not going to be a straight line. Okay, so that means we'll have to take more points. Okay, so we'll have to take more points over here. Previously, it said that by drawing a suitable straight line. It doesn't say that over here. So we'll have to take more points. So let's take 6 to be on the safe side. Okay, so let's see what do we get if we take 6. So 6 cube divided by 2. So we get 108. So at 6, it's 108. अच्छा, अब 6 से बीच का भी एक value ले ही लेते हैं. Why? So that we'll just add some accuracy to our graph. So let's slide this over to the right. Okay, and let's take 5 as well. So if you take 5, 5 cube is 125 divided by 2, 62.5. Okay, so at 5, it's 62.5. Let's mark that. At 5, it's 62.5. So here's 60, 62.5 is going to be somewhere over. We're going to go with 62. Okay, now if you join the points, you end up with something like this. And the point where the two graphs intersect is somewhere in between. In fact, it's exactly 5.8. And there you go. This is the value of x, where the sphere with radius half x and the solid has equal volume. So the answer is 5.8. Now this was a slightly more challenging question because in the end you didn't have to draw a straight line, you actually had to draw a curve. So that's what made it slightly more challenging. Okay, can you guys not hear me? Really? Is that the case? Acha, aa rahi hai. Okay, great. The minus 20x on the first part. So we use the identity a minus b the whole thing square. Thank you, Momin. I appreciate that. Okay. Now let's do a question that's slightly different from the two questions that we've solved so far. In fact, I want to do the question where, you have to sort of play around with the equation on the left hand side to bring it equal to what you've plotted. So I want to do a question like that. ये अच्छा सवाल है. चलो let's do, yeah, Let's do both these questions. October, November 2018. And this question, this is quite a lengthy question, so it's worth it. I don't understand the correlation between the equation of y. Okay, so let me answer your question. Sir, can you please explain how you got the value of y in this? Okay. So y is volume, okay. And in this question, in this part T, we were supposed to find out the value of x when the sphere and the cuboid have the same volume. So as far as the volume of cuboid is concerned, that we already have over here, okay. We found out the volume of the sphere. How? By taking the radius as half x and by taking pi as 3, okay. So pi is 3, radius is half x. Here we got an expression for volume, okay. Now volume in this question is represented by y. That's why we replaced v with y. So y is equals to 1 upon 2 x cubed. Now this is the volume of the sphere. As far as the volume of the cuboid is concerned, we've already made the graph for that. So we need to take a few values of x. So we plugged in a few values of x. We found out the corresponding y values. And then we made the graph. Once we've made the graph, if you're supposed to find out where they have the same volume, that means you're looking for the point of intersection. So at the point of intersection, we look at the value of x, and that value of x, as you can see, look at the graph in green and look at the graph in red. You can see that the point of intersection is when x is equals to 5.8. Here is the point of intersection. You can see this is when x is 5.8. So there you go. I hope that helps now. So basically, this is the point of intersection right here, okay, and this is when x is 5.8. So you can see this is when x is 5.8. Okay, so I hope that helps. When will class end? We've only solved 2 questions, so it's going to be a while. I think around 6 to be on the safe side. Definitely before 6 because I have another stream at 6. Okay, so another question that I'm going to solve is, just a second. Yeah, this one right here. So this is from October, November 2017, paper 2, variant 2. Okay. Now you might think it's old, but it's still very relevant. Okay. Now, let's see what it says. So it says here the variables x and y are connected by the equation so and so. Okay. Some corresponding values of x and y are given in the table below. Okay. So what do we have to do? We have to complete the table. अब ये free के marks होते हैं. Okay. How many marks do you get? You get 1 mark. But make sure that you find out both the values correctly. Even if you mess up one value, no, then you lose. Then you lose 1 mark. Okay. So you either get a mark over here or you don't get a mark. Okay. There's no such thing as 0.5 or something. And that's the case with every 1 mark question. Okay. All right. So let's plug in -3. Let's see what do we get. So if you plug in -3, here's what happens. 3 plus in the bracket, let's write -3 minus and then -3 in a bracket. And don't forget to square it. Okay. Divide by 2. So when you plug in -3, you get -4.5. All right. And then let's plug in 5. Let's see what happens if you plug in 5. So if you plug in 5, here's what you get. You get, if I remember correctly, I think you're going to get the same value. Yeah, you get -4.5. There you go. Okay. Now this question is different in another sense, is that you have to draw the xy axis yourself. So it says using a scale of 2 centimeter to represent 1 unit, draw horizontal x-axis from -3 to 5, and using a scale of 1 centimeter to 1 unit, draw vertical axis. Okay, now looking at the vertical axis, you know where to draw the x-axis. Now since the y values are equally distributed, that means the x-axis is going to be exactly in between. Okay, the x-axis will be exactly halfway. Achha. Then as far as the x values are concerned, the x values are not equally distributed. You have more on the positive side and less on the negative side. And you have to leave 2 centimeter to represent 1 unit. So let's say that this is -3. Okay. Then if you leave 2 centimeter, this is going to be -2. Then this will be -1, and this will be 0. So now you know exactly where to draw the y-axis. This is where we're going to draw the y-axis, and we should have enough room to go up until 5, okay, because this has already been provided to us, so we will definitely have enough room to go up until 5. Yeah, so notice it's neck and neck, okay, so you have no room, no extra room, so you have to make sure that you start from the very end. Okay, you can either start from here, and in order to find out the y-axis, you can start from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and then mark the y-axis, and then -1 to 3. But no matter what you do, there's no room on the right hand side or the left hand side. Okay, now let's talk about y. For the y values, we have some extra room. Yeah, so 5 to -5, -3, -4, -5. Okay, make sure you look at the scale correctly. All right, you don't want to draw solve the entire question and then realize that you've messed up the scale. Okay, so everything's correct. Okay, now we can draw the graph. So here we have -3 and -4.5. So -3 -4.5 is going to be over here. Okay, in between -4 and -5, we'll find -4.5. -2 -1 is going to be over here. Then -1 -1.5 is going to be over here. Then 0 pe +3. Okay, so no, wait a minute. At -1 it's +1.5, sorry, not -1.5. Yeah, and then at 0 it's 3, and then at 1 it's 3.5, so slightly above 3, and then at 2 it's 3 again, at 3 it's 1.5, so again in between 1 and 2. At 4 it's -1, and at 5 it's -4.5. So there you go. Okay, this is a quadratic curve, so it makes sense that we're getting a sad face. Okay, there you go. Okay, I was wondering, there's something off. 1 pe 3.5. Yeah, so I actually marked it at 3.15. So 3.5 is going to be over here. Yeah, that should fix it. Okay, there you go. Yeah, now it's fine. Yeah, I fixed it. Thank you. Yes, I fixed it. Thank you. Will you do winter 19, paper 21, question 8? Okay, if it's a good question, I'll solve it. Okay, now, by drawing a tangent, estimate the gradient of the curve at 3, 1.5. Okay, so estimate the gradient of the curve at 3, 1.5. So basically, it's the value of x that concerns us. Okay, it's not the y value that concerns us. It's basically the x value, which is equal to what? Which is equal to 3. So even if the question had said by drawing a tangent at x equals to 3, that would have been sufficient information. So we make a tangent at x equals to 3. Now remember, your tangent should represent the steepness of the curve at the value of x that you're drawing it at. Okay, so the tangent, the whole purpose of making a tangent over here is to sort of like take a part of a curve and enlarge it. Okay, so that's what a tangent does. It takes like a very small part of the curve and it enlarges, it basically makes it larger. So it magnifies that part of the curve, and that is how we're able to find out the gradient of the curve. Okay, so your steepness of the tangent should be very close to the steepness of the curve at the value of x where the tangent is drawn. Okay, and just a couple of things to note about tangent is that its distance from the point at which it's drawn, the value of x at which it's drawn, on both sides should be symmetrical. Up here you can see that, let's say 0.6 units away from 3, or you can say k. Okay, yeah, so basically I want you guys to observe this part of the tangent. Okay, just this part, and you can see that the distance of the tangent from the curve is pretty much symmetrical. Okay, jitna tangent curve se yahan pe dur hai utna hi dur yahan pe bhi hai. Okay, so these are all qualities of a good tangent. Okay, although you will have a range of acceptable answers, so you don't have to worry about being like pinpoint accurate, but still the more the better. If you're casual from the very beginning, then your answer, there will be a huge difference between your answer and the final answer. Okay, now once you've drawn your tangent, then try and pick points that you can easily read. Okay, don't gamble, like don't try and always look for integer coordinates. You will find them sometimes, but sometimes you won't. So like for example over here, this is a point where I can say for sure that the tangent is passing through it, and the coordinates over here are 1.5. So it's 1.5 for x and 4.4 for y. So 1.5 comma 4.4. Let me write that down. 1.5 comma 4.4. Okay, then let's pick another point. Let's pick another point through which the tangent is passing. Okay, so this point looks good. Okay, the coordinates here are 3.5 and 0.6. Yeah, 3.5 comma 0.6. So let's write this down. 3.5 comma 0.6. Okay, now looking at the tangent, the gradient of this line should be negative. Okay, so that means if we don't get a negative gradient, we've done something wrong. So 0.6 minus 4.4 over 3.5 minus 1.5. अब no need to work this out mentally. When calculator is allowed, so just do it in your calculator. 0.6 minus 4.4 over 3.5 minus 1.5. So here we're looking at minus 1.9. So the gradient is equal to minus 1.9, and minus 1.9 is well inside the acceptable range. Okay, just so you guys know, the acceptable range for this is minus 2.4 to minus 1.6. This is the acceptable range. So as long as, and this is quite a huge range to be honest. So as long as your value is inside this range, you're fine. Okay, and it's not like you get extra points for a certain specific value. You don't. Okay, as long as it's inside this range, you get full marks. Okay, no, Anisa, the answer to your question is no. Try and avoid taking the point where you've drawn the tangent. Okay. Sir, why not use one significant figure? What do you mean one significant figure? SGT, what's that short for, by the way? What's SGT short for? Sir, axis पे pick करने तो easy हो जाता है. Yes, easy हो जाता है. You're right. I could have taken that. I could have taken 3.5678, 3.8 comma 0. But then you don't have the y-intercept. So in any case, you would have had to take another point other than the point that's on the x-axis. But yeah, you can do that. Okay, you can do that. Okay, anything else did I miss? No, I didn't. Walaikum salam. Differentiation आप use कर सकते हैं यहाँ पे, but only to check your answer. Okay, you can use differentiation, but only to check your answer. But the thing is, your differentiation will give you. The reason why I don't encourage using differentiation over here is that through differentiation you will get the exact answer. Okay, and then obviously your answer will not be the exact same that you will get through differentiation. So you might think that you've done something wrong, and you might, आप शायद ज़बरदस्ती उसको ठीक करने की कोशिश करेंगे, उसके लिए आप टाइम भी ज़ाया करेंगे उसकी वजह से, और आप mess up भी कर देंगे उसको. So if you want to use differentiation, then just keep one thing in mind, is that your answer can be 25% more than the value that you get and 25% less. Okay, so plus minus 25% mind mein rakhiyega. Okay. All right, now here's part 4. Now these are the type of questions that students generally struggle with. Let me tell you, finding out the points, obviously nobody's going to struggle with plugging in the value of x to find out the corresponding y value. That's pretty easy. Okay, tangent also is something you get the hang of after practicing a few questions, okay, and after like just following a certain set of guidelines. These are the type of questions that students generally struggle with. So I'll give you guys 2 minutes to solve this. When you have your answer, let me know. So what is meant by, so asymptote is not an O-level math. You have that in IGCSE Math, but you don't have that in O-level Math, so don't worry about it. Sir, please notice me. Okay, Jannat, I've noticed you. Ab paper ban gaya, there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, you have it in 2025. Okay. Not right now. In 2025, yes, but not right now. Sir, can you post videos explaining graphs of function topic? I don't get it. I have a video in which I've explained the concepts. Yeah, I do. I have a video where I've explained the concepts. Okay. Okay, does anyone have the answer to this question? Okay, I'll explain. So, dekho, in questions like these, whenever the question says by drawing a suitable straight line, solve, or if it just says solve the equation, or if it says like by adding a suitable straight line, or if it tells you that by adding a certain straight line, like it has over here, that the point of intersection of the graphs, this, what we've already drawn, and the line y equals to k are the solutions to the equation. So here the question is kind of asking you the same thing, but it's just changed the way that it's asking you. Okay, normally a question like this would have been, by drawing a suitable straight line, solve the equation. Here the question is saying that this equation has been solved by drawing this line y equals to k over here, and you have to find the value of k. So technically you have to find out the suitable straight line that we need to draw in order to solve this equation. Okay, so questions like these have a very standard approach. Okay, you learn how to, you understand how to solve one question, and you can apply that method to pretty much all the questions there are. Okay, if you take out 100 questions, and I can guarantee that 95 of them can be solved through this method. Okay, so the step-by-step approach is that the equation that you have to solve, you bring it equal to the equation of the curve. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring this step by step equal to the equation of the curve, and keep the equation of the curve in front of you. Okay, so that it's easy to compare. Now, first of all, if you notice something, you'll notice that here we have 10, and in the equation we have 3. Okay, not very helpful. The coefficient of x over here is 2. The coefficient of x over here is 1. Here we have x square negative, here we have x square also negative, but we have upon 2. So that means the first thing that I need to do in order to bring this equal to this is divide by 2. Okay, so in our journey where we bring this equal to the equation of the curve, we start by dividing it by 2. So that's what we're going to do. The first step is that we will divide it by 2. Now when you divide it by 2, 10 upon 2 becomes 5. 2x upon 2 becomes x, and x square upon 2, well, you can't simplify this any further, so we just write it as minus x square upon 2. Now if you notice, we're almost there. Okay, we're not quite there yet, but we're almost there. So here we have minus x square upon 2, here also we have minus x square upon 2. So that means we don't have to multiply, divide, add, subtract anything. Here we have plus x, in the equation of the curve also we have plus x. Again, nothing to worry about, nothing to add, subtract, divide, multiply, kuch bhi nahi karna. If you compare the constants, however, here we have 5 and here we have 3. So what do I need to do to the left hand side to bring it equal to the equation of the curve? I just need to change the constant, and I need to turn 5 into 3. So how do I turn 5 into 3? I subtract 2 from the left hand side, and if I subtract 2 from the left hand side, that means I need to subtract 2 from the right hand side as well. So what happens to the left hand side? When you simplify the 5 and minus 2, you get 3 plus x minus x square upon 2. 0 minus 2 is minus 2. And notice, what is this equal to? The left hand side straight up is equal to y. And what is the right hand side equal to? The right hand side is equals to minus 2. So what is the equation that, what is the equation of the straight line that we need to draw in order to solve this equation? It's y equals to minus 2. According to the question, it was y equals to k. So now if you compare the two, you will see that minus 2 is the correct answer. Okay, k equals to minus 2 is the correct answer. Okay, yes, you will find the recording of this, don't worry about it. No, I'm not teaching at city school anymore. That was a long time ago. This is embarrassingly easy. Okay, good choice of words, embarrassingly easy. So should I take okay, ये बात की बाद में debate करेंगे, ठीक है. For now, the answer is minus 2. Okay, in part B, it says by drawing the line y equals to k on your graph, find the equations of the solution. Okay, so what is the line that we are going to draw on the graph? It's y equals to minus 2. Okay, so k equals to minus 2. Saad, k equals to minus 2. So let's draw the line y equals to minus 2. See what do we get. Here is the line y equals to minus 2. And now let's look at the corresponding value. So one value is 4.123, 4.3, and the other value is minus 2.123. So minus 2.3 and minus 4.3. Minus 2.3 and yeah, there you go. Minus 2.3, comma. What's the other value? 4.3. Okay. That's it. That's your answer. Okay. Yes, I am at the moment teaching at Nixer. I ignored you. Okay. No, I didn't ignore you. It's just that this is not the right time to answer this question. Okay. Maybe I can make a video on it later on. All right. Now let's do part B. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to do part B. Let me know when you guys have the answer. Sir, will we get the same values of x if we just solve the equation? Yes, definitely. If not the exact same value, you should get value that's very close to what you get from the graph. Yeah. No, I don't. I teach online entirely. चलें extremely easy है तो आंसर भी बता दें. I agree, it's easy, which is why I'd like you to tell the answer. P is 4. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, so basically we'll plug in a point to find out the value of P. The point that we have is 0, 4. So y is equals to p a to the power x. So if you plug in 0, 4, that means in place of y we have 4, and in place of x we'll have 0. Now the good thing about plugging in 0 in place of x is that a to the power 0 is 1, and what's p equal to? P is straight up equal to 4. There you go. Okay. And then now your equation looks like this. Y is equals to 4 a to the power x. Okay, and now you can easily find out the value of a. Now there's no point in plugging in 0, 4 again, because if you do that, then a just disappears. Okay, so you have to plug in a value which keeps a alive. And the only value that you have, the only other option that you have is just 2, 36. So we plug in 36 in place of y, and we plug in 2 in place of x. So this is what we're looking at. We're looking at 36 equals to 4a square. So 4a square equals to 36, which means a square equals to 9, which means theoretically that a will be equal to plus minus 3. But because it's plus minus 3, we have to decide what to go with. So we're going to go with positive 3. Why? Because it says in the question. Here it is. A is greater than 0. So here are some zoom in, zoom out effects. So a is greater than 0. Okay. Now our equation looks like this. Y is equals to 4 into 3 to the power of x. So we need to find out the value of q, and this is where here is a point through which the curve is passing. So plug in q in place of 9, plug in 4 in place of x. Okay, तो काफ़ी बड़ी value आएगी. 3 power 4 is what? 81. 81 into 4, 8 4 is a 32. 320, 324. वैसे मैं क्यों खामा खाएँ इतना जहन पे जोर डाल रहा हूँ सीधा सीधा कैलकुलेटर यूज़ करें 4 into 3 to the power 4 yep 324 is the answer so there you go that's your answer okay what did I miss thank you so much you're welcome Maheen whenever there are powers of x and y okay yeah I understand that can be a little scary sir please explain this question I just did that so we just plugged in 0 comma 4 and when you plug in 0 in place of x a to the power 0 becomes 1 so we don't have to know what a is in order to find out the value of p so plugging in 0 comma 4 gives us the value of p once you have the value of p use the other point to find out the value of y to find out the value of a that's what we've done okay it's not complicated hai nahi waise ye sawal I mean honestly these are 3 easy marks given that you guys don't make a calculation error or something obviously that goes without saying okay chale aage let's do another question now let me find another question which is on the difficult side any suggestions that you guys have abhi kisi ne ek question mention kiya tha sir can you solve the most yeah I am trying to find the most traumatizing questions of graphs of functions okay second part mein 0 4 be used okay if you had used 0 comma 4 in the second part then वही problem हो जाती कि आपका a गायब हो जाता okay so you need to keep a alive that's why we need to use a point other than that मैं ढूंढता हूँ ज़रा कोई traumatizing तो नहीं but slightly close to traumatizing question चलें एक सवाल है let's do that sir there were questions before 2015 with 2 quadratic equations in which okay I think I know what you're talking about but before that let's do this question yeah because ये एक और तरह का concept है which I want to cover with you guys where you have to use the two equations and bring it down to a certain equation and then find out what's unknown winter 19 paper 21 okay I might have that over here winter 19 okay I don't surprisingly so let's do this question okay then we'll take your question yeah okay so as always it starts by filling up so please do the AXB question thing yeah that's what I'm doing ये वही है ठीक है okay now one thing that I want you guys to make a note of is that नहीं advanced नहीं है is that overall graphs of functions is not that difficult there are difficult parts to it okay I've said this before I'll say it again that doesn't mean that the entire topic is difficult it's just that you will come across some difficult parts okay which people struggle with so yeah just remember that now here we have to complete the table so let's do that let's do as the question says let's plug in 7 so 7 upon 4 plus 2 upon 7 let's see what do we get so we get 2.0357 so that we can round off to 2.04 okay as you can see we have here all the answers are given correct to 2 decimal places, so that's what we're going to do as well. 2.04 is what we're going to go with. Acha, this by the way is from October November 2020 paper 2 variant 2. Okay, October November 2020 paper 2 variant 2. Okay, then it says you're supposed to draw the graph. Okay, so again, free marks over here. Just make sure that you get familiar with the scale. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get myself familiar with the scale first. So it's the same on the x and the y axis. On the x axis, a small box equals to 0.1. On the y axis also, a small box is equals to 0.1. Okay. So now let's look at the point 0.4 comma 4.13. So 0.5 comma 4.13. 0.5 and 4.13. So let's mark that 0.5 and 4.13. The thing is, what do we do with 4.13? Now 4.13 technically is in between 4.1 and 4.2, right? But since it's closer to 4.1, that's what we're going to do. Or maybe we're going to mark it slightly above 4.1. You know, that's the best that we can do. So we're going to try and be as accurate as possible, okay? But we're not going to be too casual about it either. So remember, a lot of times students are just very casual about it, but that's not what we're going to do. We're going to try and be as accurate as possible. Okay, so 2.13 को हम 4.13 को हम 4.1 से थोड़ा सा ऊपर मार्क कर देंगे, बट इतना भी ऊपर नहीं कि वो 4.15 लगे, ठीक है, but slightly above 4.1. Okay, then we have 1 and 2.25. So 1 and 2.25. So 1 and 2.25 is going to be 2.25 is going to be in between 2.2 and 2.3. And then you have 1.5 and 1.71. So 1.5 and 1.71. Then you have 2 and 1.5. So that's right here. Then you have 3 and 1.42. So 3 and 1.4, 1.4, 1.42. Okay, there you go. Then you have 4 and 1.5. So 4 and 1.5. So again, it's slightly above the previous one. Then at 5, it's 1.65. So 1.5, 1.65. Then 6 पे, it's 1.83. So 1.8, 1.9. Again, slightly above 1.8. And at 7, it's 2.04. So 2.04 को तो हम 2.05 कर सकते हैं. That means we can mark it in between 2.0 and 2.1. Yeah, 2.0 and 2.1. Okay. Now let's join all the points and make a nice and smooth curve. Okay, I'm not too satisfied with that. There you go. Yeah. Now let's see what the next part is. So yeah, I recommend cross because, okay, remember to make a cross. You're not supposed to make a dot. Why? Because your papers get scanned and the dots when you scan a paper, then you naturally have like a lot of spots on the paper. So that's why in order to make your point stand out, you have to make a cross. Okay, and I don't recommend that you make a cross or circle it, but cross bana do, that's good enough. Okay. Achha, then it says by drawing a tangent, estimate the gradient of the curve when x equals to 1. So if you remember what I said earlier, that even the x value is enough for us to find out the gradient. So remember that your tangent is basically the enlarged version of the curve at the value of x where you're drawing the tangent. So that means it should represent the steepness of the curve at x equals to 1. So I think this line is a good representation. So let's extend it both ways. Okay, yeah. Now let's pick 2 points through which this tangent line is passing. So one point that I can see is, let's extend this slightly, 0, 4. Although it's above 4, but let's take 0, 4. Okay, let's write that down, 0, 4. Then let's pick another point. So another point through which the line is passing, the tangent line is passing. This looks good. Okay. The coordinates over here will be 1.8 comma 0.8. Yeah, 1.8 comma 0.8. Let's make sure of that. Yeah, 1.8 comma 0.8. Okay, now let's find out the gradient. Again, keep your eyes and ears open. This line will have a negative gradient. Sir, मेरा gradient कभी सही नहीं आता. Beta, remember you always have a range of acceptable answers. So is your gradient like completely, is it like slightly outside the acceptable range, or is it like totally outside the acceptable range? Have you tried to sort of keep track of that? Okay, is it slightly different or extremely different? Like for example, over here, my gradient is minus 1.78. And just to let you know, the acceptable range is from minus 2 to minus 1.1. So देखो काफ़ी बड़ी acceptable range है. Technically 0.9 की गुंजाइश है. Okay, so 0.9 की गुंजाइश है. So if you've marked the points correctly, then there is no reason for your answer to not be inside the acceptable range. So minus 1.78 is the correct answer. Okay, now then it says on the grid draw the graph of so and so. So whenever you have to make a straight line, you always start, this is the equation of a straight line. So we always start by making x the subject. So 2y equals to minus x plus 6. Then if you make y the subject, I think I said x the subject, you start by making y the subject. Minus x plus 6 upon 2. Then it's always a good idea to separate it. So it becomes minus 1 upon 2x plus 6 upon 2, and 6 upon 2 becomes what? 6 upon 2 becomes 3. So minus 1 upon 2x plus 3. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to plug in a few points. Okay. In order to make a straight line, you plug in a few points. Basically any line which involves x and y both. So now you may be thinking कि मैंने इसको ऐसे क्यों लिखा? इसको मैंने ऐसे इसलिए लिखा so that I can find out what are the points that I should plug in. So if you plug in 0, you get an integer value of y, which is 3. Okay. And then I'm not going to plug in 1. Although there's no harm in plugging in 1, because we will get something to do with 0.5, and that's not going to be very difficult to mark. But just to be on the safe side, I'm going to go with 2. So if you plug in 2, minus 2 upon 2 will be minus 1. Minus 1 plus 3 will be 2. Okay, so that's what we get. We get positive 2. And just like that, I'm not going to plug in 3. Instead, I'll plug in 4. So minus 4 divided by 2 plus 3. So that's equal to 1. So 0 pe 3. 0 pe 3. We have 3 points. 1 pe, nahin, 2 pe 2. So 2 pe 2. ठीक है. And 4 pe 1. Now you join these 3 points, make a straight line. These 3 points should line up. If they're not lining up, that means you've either marked them incorrectly or you've calculated them incorrectly. Now there you go. That's it. That's your answer. Okay. Then it says write down the x coordinates of the point of intersection of the line and the curve. So here you can see it's the line that we have drawn, and here you can see it's the curve that we've also drawn. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to look for the point of intersection between the line and the curve. Okay, remember the line and the curve. So here is one point. It's in between 1.8 and 1.9. So I'm going to go with 1.85. So let's write that down, 1.85, and then we have another point. Okay, and this point is in between 3.1 and 3.2, so I'm going to go with 3.15. Now, did you guys notice that I'm not marking these values casually? If it's in between 3.1 and 3.2, I'm not rounding them off to 3.1 or 3.2. I am actually writing them to 3.1. I am actually writing them as 3.15. No. So even slightly outside the range is not acceptable. Okay, it has to be inside the range. The reason why you have a range is so that even if your answer is not 100% accurate, it can still be right. Okay, there is no such thing as like the range within the range. Okay, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. जो range है उसके अंदर होना चाहिए. उससे 0.1 या 0.01 भी out है तो उसूलन तो गलत है. अब एग्जामिनर आप पे मेहरबानी करके उसको सही कर दे तो वो अलग बात है. But the reason why you have an acceptable range is so that एक तरह से समझें, आपको थोड़ा freedom मिला हुआ है. Okay, now here is part 3. The main reason why I wanted to do this question. It's not even near at times. Okay. What's the range for this part? Okay, that's a good question. अच्छा, अब इस पार्ट की ना रेंज नहीं दी हुई, मैं आपको बताता हूँ क्यों. इस पार्ट की रेंज इसलिए नहीं दी हुई क्योंकि इसमें बहुत सारे फॉलो थ्रू मार्क्स हैं. फॉलो थ्रू मार्क्स बेसिकली मीन दैट डिपेंडेंट ऑन द कर्व, डिपेंडेंट ऑन द लाइन. सो I'm pretty sure these two values fall inside the acceptable range, okay? But with a few questions where you have like a lot of working involved, or a lot of working is done in between in order to get to the final answer, you'll notice there is no range given, okay? So if, let's say, previously your answers were falling inside the acceptable range, then you can be sure that this answer will also fall inside the acceptable range, okay? But you still have to be careful reading the values. You can't take that too casually. Okay, now here is the last part. So it says these x coordinates are the solution of the equation. Okay, now first of all, understand what we're supposed to do over here. Basically what's happened is that according to the question, when you solve these two equations, okay, this is the equation that you end up with. All right, read the question, see what it says. It says these x coordinates are the solution of the equation so and so. Use this and this to find the value of a and b. So that means what we're going to do is we're going to do substitution, okay, or you can say that we're going to solve them simultaneously, but we're not going to solve them simultaneously to find the value of x. We will only solve them simultaneously to find out this equation, and then once we have found this equation, we look at the coefficient of x, that will be the value of a. We look at the constant, that will be the value of b. Solve by substitution. And these type of questions are also quite standard. So you have a lot of ways in which you can solve this question. You can start by making y the subject. Okay, so we've already done that. In fact, as far as the equation of straight line is concerned, we already made y the subject. So we ended up with something like this: minus x plus 6 upon 2. But if you write it nicely, minus x plus 6 upon 2 तो हमने इसलिए लिखा था ताकि हम उसको straight line के form में लिख सकें आसानी से. But if you write it nicely, it's going to be 6 minus x upon 2. Okay, so y equals to 6 minus x upon 2, and y equals to x upon 4 plus 2 upon x. So we're going to solve these two equations simultaneously. Let's see what happens. 6 minus x upon 2 equals to, here we will have 4x. Okay, so that's the LCM, 4x. Now let's see what do we get. So we multiply this by x, we multiply this by x as well. So that's x square, okay. And then we multiply this by 4, so we multiply this by 4 as well. So that's plus 8, okay. Now we cross multiply. So 4x into 6 minus x is equals to 2x square plus 8 into 2, which is 16. So yeah, here's what we get. We get 4x into 6, so that's going to be 24x minus 4x square, which is equal to 2x square plus 16. Now let's shift everything over to the right hand side. So 2x square plus 4x square is going to be 6x square. Okay, and then you will have minus 24x plus 16 equals to 0. Okay, so I've shifted everything over to the right hand side, and this is what we've ended up with. Now notice that this is not equal to what we're supposed to bring it equal to. Okay, so does that mean we've done it wrong? No, that means that we now need to divide it by 2 in order to bring the coefficient of x square equal to 3. So if we take 2 common, or if we divide by 2, this is what we end up with: 3x square minus 12x plus 8, close the bracket, equal to 0. And then if you take 2 across the equals to sign, it gets divided by 0. 0 divided by 2 is equal to what? Is equal to 0. And this is what we end up with: 3x square minus 12x plus 8. And now if you compare it with the equation that's given to us, you can see that a equals to what? A equals to minus 12, and b equals to what? B equals to 8. So minus 12 and 8 is your answer. And there you go, fellas. That's how you solve this question. No, there is no other method to calculate gradient without tangent, I'm afraid. There is, but you're not going to get any marks. If the question is categorically asking you to draw a tangent, then even if there was another method, you're not going to get any marks. Okay. Okay, now. Sir, थोड़ा challenging सवाल दें, boring. No, this is not the last question. Let's do a few more. Let's do one more question. What do you guys say? Sir, I never know which values to pick when it comes to finding the gradient of a tangent. Can you talk about that a little? So, any 2 points that the line is passing through, other than the point where you've drawn the tangent. Okay, जिस point पे आपने tangent बनाया है, उसके अलावा आप कोई से भी 2 points ले लें, जहाँ से line pass करिए, that's good enough. What are you planning for tomorrow's stream? I haven't planned anything. What do you guys suggest? Yeah, you can check the gradient using your calculator, but the thing is, all these methods are just to check your answer. You still have to do it the longer way. Tips for tangent. So remember, the whole objective of tangent is that it's like an enlarged version of the curve. Okay. So it has to represent the steepness of the curve. जितना curve steep है उस point पे जिस point पे आपने tangent बनाया है उतना ही आपका tangent steep होना चाहिए. ठीक है. वो वाला point क्यों नहीं लेते? Okay, I honestly don't really have an explanation for that. बस एक rule है कि you take any other point. You take a point other than the point through which the tangent is drawn. Trigonometry. Okay. I've already solved 2 yearly past papers. Okay, so that's why I wanted to give yearly past papers a break. I solved a yearly past paper yesterday, and I think the day before that as well. So that's why I thought let's give yearly past papers a break. Mensuration or vectors. Okay, so I'll run a poll on my Instagram and YouTube. Okay, in which I'll add mensuration, trigonometry, and vectors. Yeah, I think these are the 3 main topics that you guys have. एंगल प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ सर्कल्स पे ऑलरेडी काफ़ी कंटेंट है वैसे, ठीक है. एंड एंगल प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ सर्कल्स तो चलो हम बाद में भी कर लेंगे. ऑलराइट, लेट्स डू ईदर मेंसुरेशन और ट्रिग्नोमेट्री और वेक्टर्स. ठीक है, लेट्स डू one of these 3 tomorrow. And honestly, I did a stream on vectors also before paper 1. I was expecting it to come in paper 1, but now that it has not come in paper 1, you can definitely expect it to come in paper 2. सर ओरिजिनल कर्व्ड की इक्वेशन में कब कन्वर्ट करते हैं और सब्स्टिट्यूशन से कब करते हैं? ओके, सो व्हेनेवर द क्वेश्चन सेज दैट, देखो इस तरह के सवाल और भी हैं, ठीक है, इस तरह के सवाल आपको और भी मिलेंगे. अब जैसे ये देखो, ठीक है. So here the question says the x coordinates are the solution of the equation so and so. Now what x coordinates are the question talking about? The question is talking about the x coordinates where the line intersects this graph. What line? This line. So technically the question is saying that the x coordinates or the solution to the equation of the curve and of the straight line gives you this equation. So how do we get this equation? We get this equation by solving the equation of the curve and equation of the line simultaneously, but we don't solve it simultaneously like all the way to the end to find out the value of x. We solve it simultaneously to bring it in this form. Okay, and then once you've done it, once you've brought it in this form, then you give your answer, you give your value of a. In fact, I want you guys to solve this question. This is a completely independent question. I mean, you can solve it independently. It's not an independent question, but it can be done independently. So I'd like you guys to solve this. Okay? ये स्ट्रेट लाइन की इक्वेशन है, ये कर्व की इक्वेशन है, ठीक है. जस्ट सॉल्व फॉर पार्ट 3. ऑब्वियसली यू कांट सॉल्व फॉर पार्ट 2 एंड पार्ट 1, ठीक है, बट पार्ट 3 सॉल्व करें, या आप बगैर कर्व बनाए बगैर लाइन बनाए आप कर सकते हैं. ठीक है, करें इसको सॉल्व और मुझे आंसर दें. या सर, बट इन योर प्रीवियस स्ट्रीम. ओके, या यू राइट, आई डिड ओनली पेपर 1 क्वेश्चंस. या वैसे वेक्टर्स के पेपर 1 और पेपर 2 क्वेश्चंस में इतना फ़र्क नहीं है, ठीक है. No. I'm checking my phone. I'm not solving this question. I'm waiting for you guys to solve this question. No, I'm not. ना मैं chat पढ़ रहा हूँ ना मैं खुदा न खास्ता depression में हूँ. I'm just on my phone. A equals to minus 25 and B equals to 10. Okay. Yeah, that is the correct answer. So whenever I study math and feel like I understand it, random question instantly makes me feel so dumb. It's so annoying. Okay, so you can't let that one question decide your level or decide your level of understanding in math. What about all the other questions that you were able to solve? And as for my question earlier, are there any keywords as to the substitution and the converting to the original equation methods? Okay, so whenever the question says, dekho, the thing is, the reason why I don't want to get into that is because the question can change it slightly. Okay, there are no fixed words that the question is going to use. So what if the question changes slightly? Then that's the reason why I don't want to get into that. So, but just remember one thing, that if the question is asking, so if the sequence is such that you've made a straight line, okay, on the curve, and you've made a straight line and then you found the point of intersection, then the question gives you an equation which has to do something with the point of intersection or has to do something with the solution of both the equations. Then that means you have to substitute the two equations and bring it the way the question wants you to bring it. Okay, so like for example over here you guys are saying minus 25 and 10, and I think that's correct. Hello, let me check. This is October November 2019. October November 2019, paper 2, variant 2. Okay, let me check. मैं इसका आंसर निकाल के check करता हूँ. Where did I get the gaming chair from? I don't know. I bought it online. It's been such a long time. I don't even remember. Yeah, minus 25 and 10 is the correct answer. So good job, you guys. A is minus 25 and B is 10. ठीक है, वही चीज़ करनी है. मैं बस थोड़ा सा यहाँ पे सॉल्व कर देता हूँ. एक y को सब्जेक्ट बनाए, so it's gonna be minus x plus 8. Y is equals to minus x plus 8 upon 2. And then the other equation is 3 plus 2x minus x cubed upon 5. Okay, so you equate the two equations, all right, or you substitute the two equations. So you have minus x plus 8 upon 2 on the right hand side. On the left hand side, sorry, on the right hand side, here's what you have: 3 plus 2x minus x cubed upon 5. ठीक है, cross multiply करें, bring it on one side, and then if you do everything correctly, you should end up with a as minus 25. Basically, if you do everything correctly, this is what the end product should look like: minus 2x cubed plus 25x, in fact minus 25x, sorry, minus 25x plus 10 equals to 0. ठीक है, end में this is what you should end up with. And you can see a is minus 25, b is 10. Okay, sir, could you add link of maths P1 2023 in description question paper? I could not. Maths P1 बेटा वो IGCSE okay. वो IGCSE में होता है फरवरी मार्च की अटेम्प्ट. ठीक है, ओ लेवल मैथ की नहीं होती. IGCSE में होता है फरवरी मार्च, और वो भी सिर्फ इंडिया में होता है. ठीक है, सो आपको ओ लेवल मैथ का फरवरी मार्च का पेपर नहीं मिलेगा. Sir, are there any major changes in syllabus anytime in past, so we shouldn't do past papers before that? Okay, so if you're done till 2018, then 2018 se pehle bas just don't do stretch, okay, and don't do share. These are two concepts of transformation. Just skip that, okay, and do everything else and you'll be fine. Okay, done. So let's keep it till here only. I will encourage you guys to solve the remaining questions. Okay, especially questions like these where you have like a shape and you're supposed to, okay, I don't know, my sixth sense is telling me that they might give a question like that. Okay, but I could be wrong. Okay, I could be totally wrong, but I don't know why. My sixth sense कुछ ऐसा कह रही है कि it's going to be something to do with word problems, and then they will have they will ask you to make a graph of it. Okay. So O level math P1 May June. Acha, okay, you're talking about 20. Okay. I'm so sorry. You're talking about 2023 May June. I don't have a PDF of it. मैंने Facebook पे देखा था. ठीक है, मेरे पास सेव नहीं है उसका PDF. I'm sorry. Just search it up on Facebook. एक group है कोली, उस पे देख लो. You might find it over there. ठीक है. अच्छा, and then something like this also. 3171. Yeah, do 3171. I dare you to do 3171. 3171 करें. This was in July 2021. Okay. तो सही मज़ा आ जाएगा आपको. लेकिन फिर demotivate ना हो जाएगा, please. Just look at the threshold and then you'll find your motivation again. चलें, so I'll stop here. I will inshallah see you guys tomorrow. I'll let you guys know what I'm streaming tomorrow, either mensuration or trigonometry or vectors. ठीक है. Where can we get this worksheet? You'll find this worksheet in the description. Description पे you'll find the unsolved version. Okay. And then ये जितने भी सारी solutions हैं मैं इसके साथ भी upload कर दूँगा. So you guys have my solution with you as well. Polio नहीं है. कोली है, कोली. It's on Facebook. COALI. ठीक है, मैंने लिख दिया. Sir, by the way, your content has been for the past few months on shorts. I can tell. Yeah, I am gradually improving my content, making small tweaks here and there. Marking scheme for what, Fahad? Marking scheme for what? Yes, mensuration is mensuration. So all these topics are lined up anyway. It's just that we'll see what we're doing tomorrow. Okay. कल देखते हैं हम कौन सा टॉपिक कर रहे हैं. ठीक है. चलें. So that's it, boys and girls. Take care. If you guys have an exam tomorrow, then good luck. Although I don't think कल कोई exam है, but yeah. चलें. Good luck for the next exam anyway. So take care.